All right, GM everyone. So I didn't get to do my weekly batch analysis on the weekend as I usually do because, well, I had some other plans. But I'm gonna do it right now, even though it's Monday. It's 10 minutes before my session, but it should be a fairly short one because I only have one trade. Maybe I have some lessons that I have learned, but either way, let's get into it. So week 35 over here, and what do we do? So on Monday, I had a couple of things on my watch list, but nothing had money come into it the way I'd want to see. All right, and there is some kind of lesson here. So let's check Anton's C entry areas. So he starts watching from initial momentum out of the sideways market, and I personally prefer waiting for the react and trading that. Yep, makes sense. So these are the areas where Anton is already watching. And to be fair, I often do exactly the same, but sometimes when my higher time frames aren't as clear, especially when my C isn't as clear, then I don't really trade here, and I trade after the reaccumulation. So this is where we look for trades after the momentum cycle fails. Yep, distribution for overall reaccumulation and trade the new MMB. Yep, that's exactly what I do as well these days. I trade a little bit inside of here. Once the momentum cycle fails, then when it starts going again somewhere over here, that's when I try to trade again. But if it fails down, I wait for the stage one and the breakout. And here, this is the MMB, the reaccumulation, right? That's where I want to trade, as opposed to like trading right here, because I I have this rule called ruling out redistribution, and that basically prevents me from trading this one leg over here because I assume that to be for redistribution purposes, as the order flow, so to say, is already to the downside, and I basically want to see a little bit more confirmation from price that it wants to go my way, and I don't mind waiting for that. So yeah, that's just a tiny little lesson for me. Tuesday, nothing on the watch list, no trades. Uh, well, what's this? Wednesday, nothing on the watch list, no trades. Thursday, nothing on the watch list, no trades. And Friday, I was watching for PITE USD and ended up taking one trade. So I should have that over here as well in Miro. So let's take a look. Boop. All right. So here we are. And before I get into this trade, as always, I'm just gonna check how last week went. So last week I only had two trades. Looks like, well, I didn't take any of them, so I actually didn't have trades, but there were two trades that I could have taken, one BE, one +5. So I followed my rules well, I was very patient, and I didn't force anything, cool. But what went bad is that I didn't take a trade I was supposed to. And, oh yeah, and that led to me creating this new rule for evaluating liquidity. Uh, I remember I made this mistake where I evaluated liquidity on an entry time frame that was not actually my intended entry time frame. I usually enter in 10 seconds, but some assets are not really tradable on the 10 second simply because, well, the price action is a bit too choppy. It's not as liquid. So when that happens, I just trade a higher E, right? Like the 1 minute. And the 1 minute was perfectly fine, but I didn't check that. I just looked at the 10 second and I was like, nah, not gonna trade this, but I was totally supposed to. So yeah, that was last week. And this week we have this. So, I mean, yeah, last week actually. So here it's a 6 minute entry. So I'm looking at a 30-minute V and a 300-minute C, something like that. So on the C, this was some kind of stage one over here, right? Let me grab this, make it white. So yeah, that was definitely some kind of stage one over here. And big momentum comes in. And I wasn't really looking for anything over here because this is an inconsistent market, kind of, and I don't want to trade it. But once it broke higher over here, still with good momentum, I was definitely like happy to continue trading this higher because it has already shown that this is not just the inconsistent thingy that breaks down. It actually has follow through. So I assume it might want to continue. So here, when we check the 6 minutes, what happens? So here's the first stage two, right? This is the continuation. This stage two over here looks pretty nice. So I want to get into that. And what happens over here is, so we fail our momentum cycle, right? And this point over here is extremely important to me. That's the lowest point of the sell-off, and price should not go lower than that. The moment it goes lower, like it breaks lower, that to me is like a completely invalidated reaccumulation, and I no longer look for a trade pretty much. But it's okay to come down here and create some STDs or springs, typical Wyckoff stuff, right? So that's what I'm expecting here. And here it starts going my way. I already started looking for some trades here maybe, but nothing really set up. And then it breaks down again. Here it fishes for some liquidity and creates a beautiful stage one, but everything is still in the spirit of reaccumulation. So the moment that I see some money come in an ICI way, I'm very happy to take that trade. And to be completely honest, this is like the last possible spot where I'm willing to trade. So the moment the momentum cycle breaks down somewhere over here, right, I'm willing to trade, let's say over here. If it sets up immediately, that would be beautiful. If it breaks down, I would be willing to also trade maybe over here. And then when it breaks down even further, as long as it doesn't lose this level and creates a stage one, just like it did, I am also willing to trade here. But this is literally the last moment. If this does something like this and it invalidates its setup, I'm done. I'm not even gonna continue trading here. Like, I'm done. I'm just gonna wait for a new range. So this is the last setup that I was willing to take, and I took it. So what ends up happening is I actually ended up making a mistake here because over here, I think over here or somewhere, I reduce risk. Let me see where exactly that is. So this looks great. Yep. So I get risk-free right after this. So I checked 1 minute here actually. So I think that's around this level, somewhere like that. Yeah. And I say that I reduce risk, but I actually forgot to reduce risk. So what happened after that is price actually came back and it was supposed to tap me out, but I didn't notice that. And I came in and checked the chart over here and I realized, wow, this should have already been a break even. So at this point, I moved to risk free. And after that, it comes back again and it ends up being a break even. So yeah, that was the trade. Overall, I think it was a really nice trade. So I'm gonna label it up now. So this is a stage one breakout on very, very good momentum. Okay, this is a good momentum because it's already a trending market. It broke into a new high, so yep, that's good. And I would say this was a perfect entry. I really love this entry. Perfect entry, which overall makes this a perfect trade. Boom. There we go. And that's it. That's literally it. That's the only trade I had. So here we go. What went well? Yep, followed my rules, was very patient, didn't force anything. What went bad is that I actually forgot to reduce risk. That was a little bad, and I marked it up as a mistake. So now if I go to here, was there anything on the weekend? I don't think so. All right, so I can copy this stuff. Um, and what went bad? Forgot to reduce risk. Okay. So if I go into mistakes here, what was that? Forgot to reduce risk. That's a mistake I made. It's a new one. There we go. Marked it up, and that's it. I wonder if there was anything else this week, but I don't think so. Did I by any chance maybe draw something new? I don't think so. Nope, not really. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over next week. So let's do this. It's gonna be week 36. Just make sure it's nice and equal. Uh, there we go. So week 36, I'm going to create that in here as well. All right, and I'm just going to quickly go over the instructions because that I reiterated them very, very recently. So, first things first, this is the most important thing. I want to focus on rules, not necessarily the R, of course. That's the number one thing that I'm always trying to do. Don't be result oriented, be process oriented, right? Capital preservation is my number one goal. Uh, Rules force me into taking risk. So this is my attempt of rewiring this a little bit. I've always wanted to trade, right? Be in a trade. I guess many people can relate to that. We all want to feel something and have the dopamine rush, but that's not good, I believe, and I want to reduce that as much as possible. And in that spirit, I'm trying to shift my focus to capital preservation. My number one goal is to actually not take trades, and taking trades is the uncomfortable thing, right? Because my rules literally force me into putting risk on the line. And yeah, that has been going really well for me lately. So I'm going to try to stick to that. Check news and create alerts 30 minutes prior to event. Okay, yep, very cool. Let's actually do that right away because it's Monday before my session. So I'm going to check the calendar here. All right, looks like there are no red news, but there's a bank holiday. Okay, so coming in Monday, no red news here, uh, but it's a bank holiday. I'm just gonna write bank holiday. Yeah, I also made a little bit of a refinement to my weekly entries. So not only do I have a reflection, I also write down the news and the watch list. The reason for this is I really, really want to have a morning routine that basically forces me to fill out these things, and that way I'm never gonna forget it. So I have a morning routine where I do everything and it prepares me for the day. So if there were actually some red news, I would right now set up the alerts and make sure that I will be alerted 30 minutes ahead and I will not take any trades into that. So, yeah, that's that. Curate a watch list and create price alerts, plus put watches on laptop screen. All right. So let's do that real quick. I already actually did that, so I went over everything. Looks like silver and gold are on my watch list this week, so I'm just gonna put that there. XAG and XAU. Everything else looks kind of trash. And here we go into more trade-specific rules. Do not trade stage 1, of course, on any time frame. Trade strong stage 2 reaccumulations. Yep, as always. Don't trade inconsistent moves. And evaluate liquidity based on the intended E time frame. You see, this is like it pretty much goes from macro all the way to micro, right? From the most important, like most umbrella overreaching rules, all the way down to the specifics. And this is the last rule, literally on the E already, and it's inspired by that mistake I made last week, so that I make sure that I actually evaluate liquidity on the intended entry time frame and not some other one. All right, so that's it for this week, and hopefully, well, hopefully, I mean, I would love for some trades, but if there's no trades, that's okay too. I'm just gonna enjoy life and go outside, do whatever. I learned how to actually really, really enjoy it when there's no trades. Last week, I took my wife on a couple of dates. It was nice, and I'm gonna continue in that spirit. Trading gives us a lot of freedom. So whenever the context is not setting up, whenever there's not the season, right? That's actually something that I really enjoyed last week, that video from Anton, where he makes the analogy of how trading is like farming. And farming is very seasonal, and so is trading, right? So I'm literally just waiting for the right season on all the assets that I watch. And once the season is there, I'm going to be there and I'm going to take my risk. But if the season is off, I'm going to be off too. All right, that's all. Very, very short video this time, but coach myself on the important things, trying to nail this into my head, all those repetitions, right? Making sure that I'm aware and conscious of the rules that I set myself up to follow. And yeah, everything's going good. So I wish you the best of luck this week, and I'll see you next time. Peace.